says, my name is Goodwin. Many of you may not recognize me because they keep me in that wooden box back in church. Which is really kind of ironic because I lived most of my life outside the box. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I didn't want y'all to have to go from the transition from deacon to diva so quickly. And also, my story has so many chapters that I've been trying to edit it down to 10 minutes, and we may not get there. But I'll give you a few quick facts. Roger and I have been married for 34 years. We have one son, Zachary, who used to work here and attend here, a daughter-in-law named Cassidy, and 4 months ago they gave us a grandson named Atticus. My resume, if I have one, I'm going to have to read most of this because it's not that I don't know what to say or afraid I'll forget. I'm afraid we'll still be here at Cross Point tonight if I don't. My resume would read, I've worked as an income tax typist, a junkyard cashier, a daycare worker, a church secretary, assistant to a semi-known entrepreneur, an Elvis tribute artist, and a diva chick. But I've never had to write a resume because God has always brought these jobs to me. He has a sense of humor about doing it because all of these jobs are in conflict with my greatest fears and beyond my skill abilities. But that didn't stop God. Another thing that you might need to know about me is my vision is 2,500, which means without my contacts, I'm extremely blind and cannot see the front view. But they say hindsight is 20/20. And that works really well and has been a blessing in my life that I could not see ahead of me and see the future of what God had for me, because if I had, I would be in a panic. As a child and a teenager, I was extremely, horribly shy. I was afraid of making mistakes and was afraid of being embarrassed. But God has done so many amazing things in my life. My story is more about Him than me. And today I can only give you a few Cliff Note versions of my story. And if you've got a question about any chapter, catch me outside the box one day and I'll explain it to you. God took a 5-year-old who was so terrified at Vacation Bible School family night that she left the stage in tears before she could quote her scripture verse. He made her a very good Vacation Bible School director who, on opening day, had 30 unexpected 4 and 5-year-olds from a daycare show up on opening day. And on Parents' Night, there was a power outage. But that little girl, as a director, handled it like it was normal. As a preteen, when I would sing Pass It On, I kept going up so high in that song, so many octaves that only the dogs could hear what I was saying. But He allowed me to become part of a young adult ensemble who sang at Chaco Springs, and I was able to do that for a year. And I always just stand on stage and think how wonderful it is that I'm getting to sing and I'm getting to do it for God. He took a teenager whose knees shook so much when she was in youth choir, and He has placed her in front of hundreds and thousands of people, and at a moment's notice to talk about any subject, and just to fill in time. And I did it calmly, and I was comfortable doing it. I can take any object or topic, and I can bring it back to God just without planning, which has come a long way from standing there in choir. I was afraid to drive. Never wanted to drive. Senior year, I'm taking driver's ed because they made it mandatory that year. Now I live in my car, and when we go on trips, I'm the one that the friends say, "Here, you drive," because they know that I'm the calmest at it, and I'm the most trusted in unfamiliar roads and in traffic. I had such a massive fear growing up of trying something new or not knowing what to do. But when we came to Hilldale back in 1955, God seemed to forget that. And He put me in a lot of jobs here. Even before we joined, there were jobs sitting here waiting on us. One of the first things we did was those dimmer pack lights that were shining in my face. Steve Goodwin was working on those. We came every night and helped him by pushing the scaffolding around, handing things up to him. And if you were to look up that way, you can't see where the wires go that go to the electrical breakers because I got to paint all the conduit pipe brown, so they're hidden. So you can't even see. But Roger was one of the first people that got to run these lights for the services, and he is the first one to regularly start doing video in the services. And when I became, the church was talking about starting to use slides to put the words up on the screen. And I got that job. It later got upgraded to PowerPoint, and I'm still doing it today. Every Sunday, we're back there running sound, lights, PowerPoint, video, and it looks like it's easy. There's no time to panic or be afraid of anything back there. It's not a question of if something's going to go wrong today. It's when and how many times is it going to go wrong, and how many times are things going to go off the order of worship. But the thing is, we may not have any idea what's going to come up next, but we're able to handle it so y'all don't have a clue what's going on. But God took the girl who would go and hide when we'd have fellowship church games because she was afraid she'd mess up and didn't want to play them. Well, if she was still here today, she would be hiding under that counter back there on any given Sunday with what goes on. But God developed in me, through my shyness, the ability to read people and to kind of figure things out and to premeditate thinking. So I'm able to know what somebody's going to do before they even think about it in a lot of cases. So God enabled that frightened little child to be able to handle anything that's thrown at her. I was a child that was afraid to talk to anyone, and I didn't have the confidence to do anything on my own. But as an adult, I was given a job where I worked on TV and radio segments, did a majority of the work on several very good books that were published. One of the books was with Ronnie McDowell. I attended a pajama party with Thelma Lou and Daphne, one of the Mount Pilot girls. I met and assisted Pat Boone, and we discussed thrift stores and my knee-high hot pink boots. And I also worked at Tammy Tucker's birthday party at her ranch in Tennessee. And Tammy Tucker and I were born the exact same day. So I secretly claimed it as my birthday party too. But while I dished out baked beans. But I gave her a teddy bear because she loves Elvis. And so I gave her a teddy bear for her present. She had a reality series at the time called Tuckerville. And on 2 episodes, I saw my teddy bear in the scene. From who I was to who I am would take hours to share. But those transformations began the summer I was 15. I attended my first church camp. And at noon every day, we had a devotional quiet time. Each day, I sat under a tree near a creek. And there was a little frog that was sat out there with me daily. Being a major tomboy growing up, I had called and played with the big frog. So to me, that was like having a special friend there. That was also the year that I realized that even though I had always known about God, I believed in God, sang about Him, told stories about Him, attended and been involved in church most of my life, and knew the real meaning of Christmas, I wasn't a Christian. I had never asked Jesus to come into my heart and to be my Savior. That was 39 years ago this week. Another thing that happened that summer was I attended the National Actings Convention in Memphis, Tennessee. One night there was a deaf man there that spoke to us through an interpreter. And it touched my heart so that I started to cry. And I'm not one that cries very much. Being a shy person, I shut down all my emotions. But I knew then that I wanted to learn sign language and to help people. So after high school, I went to UAB and took the sign language classes there for a few years. And I used it anytime I could, in church, doing a song or teaching the GAs I worked with. But after a few years, after a year after we started Hilldale, I was hired for a temporary part-time job in the church office. That job lasted 8 years. And later on, I was asked to come back and work a few weeks to fill in until they could get a new secretary, and that was over a year. But I was so honored to be able, that God had chose me out of all the people on the planet. I was part of a small fraction that God chose to work in one of His offices. And so I was very blessed to be able to do that. And I would even park way up there in the parking lot because I wouldn't park in the staff parking lot because that was the holy of holies. But I eventually parked closer. But not long after I started work here at the church, the choir was taking a trip to Memphis to hear the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir. They had an extra ticket and invited me to go with them. During that concert, one of the songs they did, they used sign language. Well, I had lost my love for sign language just because of the busyness of life you get out of those kind of things, and it brought it back to me, and it renewed that love that I had for it. It was later that I realized I was in the exact same auditorium that I had been in as a 15-year-old girl, and first found that love. Within a few months of that experience, the youth were having a fundraiser, and they were going to have an Elvis tribute artist there. And I had never seen one, so the program went really well. And at the end, I went up to sit down close to the stage to take pictures, just so the youth would have them. And I sat on the floor in front of the tables. Nobody could see me either way. Well, during that concert, near the end, he started singing American Trilogy, which is a song that I had taught myself to do because I thought it would be very beautiful. And I always wondered what it would be like to have done it with Elvis. So at that moment, I thought, this is as close as I'm ever going to get. So I sat there in very small gestures where no one could see. I did the song. Well, during the bridge part of the song, I looked up, and he was looking at me, and he mouthed the words, "wonderful." So while everybody had been watching Elvis, Elvis was watching me. And so the next song was How Great Thou Art, which I had also learned, so I did that one a little bit bigger. Nobody else could see me, but at least he could see me more. After the show, he came up and told me how much he enjoyed it, and he asked me, encouraged me about doing it. One thing led to another. We became friends with him. We began to work with him, and we helped him with his Elvis shows. And we enjoyed it. It was so much fun. A lot of many experiences. We were rewarded, but we didn't look at it as a job. It was a ministry to us, and that ministry lasted for several years. But in 2004, some things happened in our lives that made us think, some people think, well, God's forgotten about you. I discovered that I had had breast cancer, and after surgery was told I would need radiation. During that time, Roger found out that he had prostate cancer, and our ministry with the Elvis shows came to an abrupt end. But you see, God was still working. I was the perfect candidate for a new form of radiation that took only twice a day for 1 week. And Roger was part of a new, robotic, less invasive surgery. And we both have been cancer-free for 9 years. And after that fact, we were no longer working with our friend, which had bothered us, but that allowed us to go and visit other tribute artist shows and to become friends with some of those people and made some wonderful friends, and we've been able to help them in different ways. And if we had been able to, I had been invited, and we've traveled to Arkansas and Louisiana and several areas of the state of Alabama to be able to do sign language with other Elvis tribute artists, or ETAs as we call them. And that would have never happened if we had continued working with our friend. That would have never happened. And now we're even able to get back to working with him. I like frogs and I like Elvis. And the reason maybe that I started liking Elvis was Elvis, we both kind of got our start in Tupelo. Elvis was born there, and my parents got married there after a very long engagement of 13 years. My mom was 4 and my dad was 8 when he proposed to her. And after 13 years, they ran off and got married and took my grandmother and her best friend with them. In 2 weeks, Roger and I will be going back to Memphis, the city where God gave me the call to do sign language and renewed that love for me. And I'll be able to get up on the stage and use my sign language to some Elvis songs. You see, in my out-of-the-box world, even though I'm not male, can't sing, don't have sideburns or wear jumpsuits, I'm an Elvis tribute artist because I use his songs in tribute to him that way. Sometimes I get to go on stage by myself with a CD, and other times I get to go on with other tribute artists. And when you're standing next to a dead guy in rhinestones, you've gotta dress it up. You can't fade in the background. I have performed with some of the ones who invited me from all over the country and from all over the world, including Belgium, Australia, and England. And these are men that I have admired and have been fans of, but they are, in their own countries, well-known major performers outside of the Elvis world. Loving music as I always have and not being able to express it vocally, God has enabled me to use my hands and my whole body. Because when I do it, I let my body feel the music too and express it to everyone and get a visual to the audio. I may not use my calling in churches or in the deaf community that much, but I have brought an appreciation and an awareness of sign language to many hearing people. They've told me that some of them have said that they were inspired to learn sign language themselves. And many people who have deaf friends and family members, and a few deaf people that have seen, have told me how much it has meant to them. God doesn't always give us gifts and abilities to keep them in the box of church-related activities. Roger has used his videoing skills for high school football games, and he's videoed many of the PTAs that we've seen, and sometimes that's the only footage they've ever had of their work. And when folks come and talk to us about what we did, thank us for it, ask us about it, it opens doors up that we can tell them how it got started and to tell them more about God. When I worked in the church office, my love for frogs got to be known, and my office began to be called the frog room. It was filled with frogs that a lot of my friends and fellow church members had brought to me. And one of the gifts I had gotten was a Bible cover that had a frog on it, and it said F-R-O-G. And that stood for Fully Rely on God. So maybe, 39 years ago, when that little frog was sitting by me during my daily devotions, he was trying to tell me something. God has proved through my life He has proved in my life through things I not only wouldn't have ever thought I could handle, but things that in my wildest imagination I could have never dreamed. And trust me, I have a wild, fast imagination. It's easy to say that we want to fully rely on God, but doing it isn't easy. And just yesterday, Satan has thrown in a new chapter in our lives to see, let us prove that we can trust God in it. This one last chapter I want to share with you is a story in my life. One day, I was on my way to work and was running a little bit behind. And I also discovered that I had forgotten to put gas in the car. So as I'm driving down the road, I am praying, oh God, please give me enough gas to get to work, and then back to the gas station afterwards. And I repeated that prayer several times, as we often do. Oh God, please, please, please give me enough gas. I'm sorry. So I prayed that and drove along as I hurried on to work. And then I began to look around to see where the next gas station was going to be. I could just pop in real quickly and fill up my tank or get enough for work. But the whole time I was looking, I was still praying, oh God, please give me enough gas. I noticed it was during election time, and there was a sign, one of those portable signs on the side of the road. A lot of the letters had fallen off. And so I had looked at it and saw there were 2 words on that sign. So I read it. The sign said, trust me. So God was using his own sign language to get a point across to me. And the message was received. So I quit looking for gas and went on to work. Made it safely to work and back to the gas station that day. While I had been praying for God to help me with my problem, I had also been trying to fix it myself. So when you're faced with issues in your life, always think about the frogs and fully rely on God, because I can prove to you